Jazz Cabbage Cafe. Deb has returned, which is really cool, and
I'm here
she
with
has a
my little
cast on,
friend.
but
Yeah,
she has all of her fingers. They all work, and stitches removed, and healing has gone
healing has
underway.
begun. Yeah, it has begun.
Nice. Uh, and of course, Roach from Medical Mondays is joining us here as a co-host. Always welcome to do that. Maybe we'll hear from Berg, he says, today. Rick is there. I don't know how
I don't even see him.
well he's on here, but to what
I
degree
just
he's able
see,
to
yeah,
participate, I don't know.
I see a blank thing and it's not even him. It's got his name, but no Rick. Colin, what'd you do to Rick?
Well, he'll figure it out.
I
And
don't know.
and sometimes he's got connectivity issues out in Flint, and he has to scramble around a little bit and see what he can do about that. So hopefully that's not
It's
the case.
Jamie's fault in the first place.
There we go. It's my fault.
Yeah, actually, I
least we can
can't
hear
start
you.
my video. That's
I
not
hear
Jamie's
it.
fault that I can't start my video, so I will have to log out and try again.
Yeah, we hear
Okay.
you. We can't see you. That might be a good thing, though.
Well, he'll give that a shot. And so today we have a couple of guests. Plus we're gonna also talk about some pertinent things going on, including the presidential race for a second. But our guest Scott Roberts from Scott Roberts Law Firm in Detroit. He has represented a lot of people in the cannabis world for business and other things, and has a really good perspective on what's going on. It'll be interesting to talk to him and ask him a few questions about current state of things for individual rights and for business, how the commercial system's going and how that's changing and all that kind of stuff. And we have Ryan Basore. We've had him on a bunch of times, but he recently launched his foundation, which he talked about as the basis of using 10% of the proceeds from his redemption line of quality cannabis products and helping out people who have been adversely affected by prohibition of cannabis, which is really cool. So we will get a little bit more detail on that and what to expect with that and what he has going on. So before it gets officially announced, let's spin it around real quick. Then I have another question. Is Biden going to take Gretchen? Yes or no? Do you have anybody else in mind? If not, Deb.
I just have this crazy feeling he's going to. I think it'd be a mistake. Although I like her, I think it'd be a mistake because I think that people are expecting him to pick a black woman or at least a woman of color. I know a lot of people are talking about Kamala Harris, but they don't get along.
Yeah,
and he's going to pick somebody. Yeah, he's going to pick somebody that he can bond with, like him and Obama did.
For him though,
I'm not so sure. I think he's more of the kind of guy that wants somebody that he can, like, the bottom line, trust 100%. That when everybody's out of the room,
it would be great if that was like that. But he is so
I just think
politicized. I don't know if it's.
I know. I don't know. I'm thinking he should pick maybe Tammy Duckworth, because how could the Republicans possibly find anything? I mean, I know Trump will go and attack her anyway, because he doesn't give a fuck about it.
They just make shit up. They don't have to find anything.
Yeah, but still, who would be more above reproach than a woman who gave her legs in service of her country? And she's conservative in my view, though. So I'm not sure who he's going to pick, but I just have this weird feeling he's going to pick
conservative.
Gretchen Whitmer.
That could work well with him. Hey, Roach, do you have any thoughts on that? Paying attention to this?
Yeah, I am. I don't know. I'm waiting to see. I'm going to keep my comments to myself. I really, I'm really disappointed in all the politics right now. On both sides.
Oh, yeah.
With the nominees. So it'll be interesting, but it's really not that big of a deal to me.
You have a opinion, Colin?
Yeah, I have a feeling like Deborah that he's gonna pick Gretchen Whitmer.
It's
just like the only one that keeps like coming up in like the news, and it's like there's not like enough bad things about her though either, and I think that it'd be good for not only like the country, but for Michigan, for the cannabis community too, because I mean I remember several fundraisers we had, and you know, meeting Gretchen Whitmer, she like showed up. That one in Ypsilanti, I remember like really well. I just remember her like coming up to me and talking to me about like she saw my shirt, and it said "Start Making Sense." It was a Students for Sensible Drug Policy shirt, and she came up to me and just talked to me at an event one time, and
Sure.
she
So-
she thought it was like really impressive, and you know that I talked to her about
Yeah,
not just
and I've had a
marijuana.
good conversation with her too, and I will
I
say
agree.
that she is an establishment Democrat. That is appealing. That works pretty well with Joe Biden. Also, will say that her handling of the pandemic has been exemplary, and she has a pretty high approval rating, even by some Republicans over it. That could be playing into some of it.
Yeah.
We do get the lieutenant governor Gilchrist, who's a lot more progressive, which could be kind of cool for us here in Michigan.
Yeah.
Like he would
plus-
be the first African American governor of Michigan, and he'd be the only African American governor or male governor in the United States.
Right. And that would kind of, you know, it doesn't make up for her not being of a woman of color, but it's something I'm sure they're going to throw out there, and they're going to say,
Yeah.
well, look, she had a black running mate, and now she's left him in charge of the state, and you know, I'm sure that's going to be part of it. I just have this weird feeling, Jamie. I don't know why. Like I said, I don't think it's the smartest thing to do. I think that I mean, what the hell, go all the way. But he has said he's going to nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court. That doesn't mean that she's going to pass muster and make it on, because you know how those fuckers are. They try to block everybody. So I don't know. We're just going to have to see.
So it'll
like
be
so.
interesting.
Yeah.
Are you kind of monitoring a little bit, Deb, while we're
Yeah,
doing this?
I'm watching it. You know, they haven't said
Okay.
anything yet. I can't really see it. I have to get up.
Now, are we expecting it, or it just could get the
No,
answer
they're
now?
saying-
It
they're
says
saying
on
that-
CNN like
Yeah,
Biden
it's saying
like
as
beat the
early,
announcement.
Well,
but there's
he
no
did-
guarantee.
He has selected. They said that he selected, and he informed his staff last night who the selection is, and then he started calling the ones that he didn't select today. And a
this
couple
isn't-
of them have come forward and said he called me and said it's not me.
So, and Gretchen was not one of them. And this is maybe
Yeah,
not
she
that
hasn't said
significant, but you know, the Democratic Cannabis Caucus, as Colin knows, has reached out to Gretchen without any response whatsoever, and several times too, and in different ways and with different, you know, important issues. And sometimes when somebody, you know, might be up for an important position or something, they don't want to rock the boat by making any moves outside of what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
Well, that's not conclusive or anything. It's just kind of another
Or
list.
or sometimes maybe they've got bigger fish to fry, like a pandemic or something like that. You know,
Well,
you got to kind of prioritize.
well,
shit.
it ties in though. We're talking about, you know, getting people out of jail and
Yeah, no, I
prison
agree.
and
You
stuff.
know,
And a lot because of the COVID stuff.
yeah.
So I wonder. Hopefully, Rick kind of gets back on.
You
You know what, Roach?
You want to make me the host again?
Yeah, I will. So you know what, Roach? Let's talk about last week real quick, because I like every show.
Awesome.
Medical
Good
Monday,
man.
and everybody should check it out. And after speaking with the musician, and I can't think of his name right now, who was on there,
Mike Fate.
Mike Fate, very cool dude, obviously well traveled because he's working and getting some gigs and getting some recognition and stuff like that. You know, has described, you know, stuff that he got at different places in Colorado and California and from Michigan. And I asked everybody last week, you know, does Michigan compete globally? Do we have some of the best cannabis in the world now?
Oh yeah, man. I was actually just talking about this, probably, you know, in the same vein of just having had that show and that being a topic. But yeah, man, I have the perfect answer for you. So from my point of view, it seems like in Michigan, we kind of, you know, have like a passion, I feel, that you don't really find in other states. And the reason why is this: you know, California, Oregon, Colorado, these mostly West Coast, Northwest area states have kind of been like the ruling class of cannabis. And Michigan was always kind of like just trying to keep up. And a lot of other states too, this is happening, where they're just trying to keep up. And in doing that, you know, I feel that to a certain degree, we have surpassed the bar that was set by California and these other states, you know, just because they take their title for granted. And, you know, just being in California gives them a certain status. Whereas here in Michigan, like, you know, people know cannabis as well as they do because they've invested their time and energy in it. You know, a lot of people that are involved have, you know, a personal stake in the race, so to speak, with, you know, either themselves or a loved one being sick, or they just see the need and they want to help. And this is the way that they help, is with cannabis. So even though, you know, we'll say that we were late to the dance, now that we're here, I feel that like Michigan definitely would change a lot of people's minds if they got to try some of this cannabis produced by these passionate people. You know, and there's too many to name, and that's a great feeling to have.
Yeah, you know, we had this cultivation expert on last week who was really cool, and he said something similar and said, of course, you know, everywhere you can find a few people who are doing something that's really good, but that's the key, is when you start seeing it consistently. As you know, as you say, there's too many to name here. There's a lot of people who took it seriously and spent the time to, you know, figure out how to maximize the quality that they're producing, and it shows up.
Yeah, no,
Deb
and I
knows.
mean, even before there was Laura and the MRA and all of that, you know, people cared about being able to produce that white ash. People cared about being able to produce that clear oil and that clean oil, and like have like the terpene profile just blow you away. That has nothing to do with following the law or regulation or something that's imposed by a government agency. This is people really taking pride and giving a fuck about what they're putting inside their body and what they're providing for other people to medicate with. And like, that's beautiful.
Yep. I agree. Of course, I saw that from the perspective of being in Third Coast and dealing with patients every day for 7+ years.
Well, Jamie, you're right. It was Kamala Harris. He just announced it. So you got it right.
I could see her getting along with him too,
As
for the same
usual.
reasons as Gretchen, and easier, disrupting you know, things here. So, but I think that works. I think that was a safe.
Yeah, I think she's good, because I think a lot of times you need what they call a bulldog as your running mate. You know, the VP is the bulldog, and it kind of leaves the candidate as the cleaner one. And I think she's going to fit in that well. She's not shy. She will speak her mind.
Yeah, she's an attorney general too. I mean, I guess she's from a legal state. Opposite side from him too. So.
She has a shitty record as a prosecutor, but she has changed her mind long enough and made that clear long enough ago that I wouldn't call it just pandering now when she talks about it. So
I was going to say, this is the same woman that made her bones by locking up young people for these drug cases, right?
Yep.
Another thing that fits in well with Joe, actually.
Right.
Yeah, buddy.
They can bond over that shit, right?
Yeah.
And I guess being a black woman, she's probably used to people wanting to touch her hair at the very least.
I don't know. Don't know about that.
Well, I don't know. Joe seems to always be sniffing people's hair.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what, man? In comparison, I know he's a weird fucker or whatever, but in comparison to the guy who's in there now, none of it really makes that much of a difference to me.
Did you see this idiot claiming that the 1917 pandemic or flu shit is what ended World War II? Did you read that shit last night? That he said that in his speech yesterday?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Meaning this is good. Yeah, this is good. Good thing this is going on right now.
Well, World War II didn't end till 42.
It
What,
didn't
like
even
45
start
or
till like
something. It
the
didn't even start
30s.
until 39. Yeah, until like 39. I think that I'm trying to think. Didn't World War One end in like 1914 somewhere? I think even
No,
before
it
that.
Started
ended,
around then, I think.
it ended before the pandemic started, though. It
Yeah.
like there was treaties and stuff, and like it started like, months later.
Dude, must have been the same time that Washington was invading the airports and shit, you know?
420's coming up for just informational purposes. Most people are already smoking. So hopefully Rick comes back on and prepared with
Yeah,
the
I'm
video.
worried
Sounded
about
like he
Rick.
had.
Where's Ray?
Let me ask you guys
I
a
don't
question.
see
Don't know,
anything.
but all right, go ahead, Roach. Then I'm going to spin another question around here.
All right, so I know like Trump isn't a popular guy, and like I'm definitely far from a fan. I didn't even watch The Apprentice, but honestly speaking, what do you think the chances of him winning are?
Hopefully pretty low, but I'm not ruling him out.
Yeah, I'm not ruling him out, but I think he's going to lose this time. I think that, and I hate to say it, but I think that the pandemic's going to blow him out of this because I don't think the people cared about anything else, truly. And I think 70
handled it horribly and
horribly, and
yeah.
and I think that 70% of America thinks that, and 30%
Yeah.
don't give a fuck, and they run around doing whatever the fuck they want to do anyway.
We're just believing whatever
And
he says,
yeah, so I think that there's a good chance that he will lose. I can't imagine a president getting reelected after something like this is going on in the presidency.
Yeah,
during his presidency.
Shit is weird, so that's why it's
Yeah,
good.
but there's been one-term presidents before who have performed far above what he's done. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
So, go
he
ahead.
needs
Go
to
ahead.
get out of here.
Yeah.
Everybody get out there and vote.
I was gonna say the economy is like gone like way, way, way down. Like
Yeah, that was his
levels
only
it's
thing.
never like been before and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, but you know what?
That was his
So,
only claim.
and it was going to get a hit from the pandemic, no matter what. But had he jumped on it and made kind of a coherent, timely response from getting the information, we wouldn't have to take as big of a hit. That should be considered by people.
We could have, the whole country could have locked down, Jamie, for what, like 10, 12 weeks, just like they did all around the world. And none of this crap would be going on. And we all be sitting the ball game today, and our kids would be going to school in September and all this other shit. We didn't do it because our leadership told us we didn't need to. You know, we, like I say, and 30% of Americans said, oh, you know, we don't need to do this shit. And this is where we are now. So what the fuck? We're going to suffer for a while around here.
Yeah. So let's take a couple minutes to spin another question around. And again, I hope that Rick comes on in, but in a few minutes, the guests start coming on and we'll start going in that direction too.
Yeah.
It sounded like Rick had a video, which now makes me even more intrigued. So let that be a little cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Maybe brought on by technical difficulties, but nonetheless, hopefully he gets that together and we can watch that. I know many of us speak to people about cannabis and even people who are new to it or in general, or obviously think about it a lot. I'm just wondering if somebody asks you or generally what you think about the difference between, explaining the difference between medical and recreational cannabis. What do you think about that, Deb?
You know what I'm going to say. To me, it's all the same. So, I mean, yeah, I understand people using it medicinally, you know, yada, 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 but I smoke weed for the buzz. Sorry.
Here comes Rick.
You know, I mean, my medical reason is I have glaucoma, and I'm happy that I was able to treat it with the cannabis, but basically I'm here for the buzz.
All right. And you've been using it medicinally, though, even lately, because
Yeah.
we've discussed it. So,
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it does have medical, but I'm just saying, and I the whole thing, and I understand the whole thing with, okay, this is medical weed over here, and this is recreational. It's all the same damn weed.
All right, no problem.
It's just
Rick,
weed.
you probably picked up on it. We're discussing how you explain to somebody or what your thoughts are on it in terms of the difference between medical and recreational cannabis. Deb started
Wait,
off.
I want to do a really quick disclaimer. If this
Sure.
was during a legalization campaign and I was speaking to somebody, I would have given a totally different answer. But we're already there, and I'm going to tell you what I really think, and that's what I really think.
Okay.
In Michigan, the difference between medical cannabis and recreational cannabis is whose hands it's in.
What
If you
I
have a
just said.
medical card,
Mhm.
it's medical. If you don't have a medical card, it's rec. And sometimes if you got a medical card and that is a disadvantage to you, it's rec anyway. So we have the best
all
of
the
both
same.
worlds. All the alternatives are available to us. When you go into a cannabis retail store, the difference between medical and recreational cannabis is about 4 foot. About 4 foot difference between the medical side and the rec side. It's all the same cannabis, just labeled differently.
Yep,
Comes from the
that's
same
what I said.
suppliers. Yep. Same testing systems. All that shit.
Yep.
Well, so yeah, that's true. Just by definition, there's a legal definition for it, and that's the answer. But maybe even like
Kamala Harris. Joe Biden picks Kamala Harris, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for that newsflash.
Yep.
Me,
Did anybody predict Kamala Harris when we talked about it? Just curious.
Nope.
And didn't we already go through this? How we
Yeah.
already said that you
And I predicted her,
because
but
Rick missed it. Because Rick missed it, right?
I predicted her, but I wouldn't have been surprised if he picked Gretchen actually either.
I was looking for Susan Rice. She was so good. She's such a great
But
candidate.
there's a lot of controversy there that they give fuel
She's
for.
CIA connected and stuff. I know there was a lot of issues there.
They were already printing them Benghazi T-shirts, Rick.
So anyway, Rick, keep on spinning it if you don't mind. And Roach and Colin have not weighed in yet.
He kind of did. He talked about it. Like,
yeah, he did. He stated his statement.
His opinion.
Yeah.
Roach, your turn.
All right. I mean,
for me, I know that Rick stated his opinion. I was just asking him to continue doing what he normally does and keep spinning it around. But it's okay.
No, Roach, what you got, man?
Well, much like everybody else, I feel like any cannabis use is medicinal. But really, when it comes down to it, I think the difference would be probably like quality between medicinal and recreational. Like if you're just recreational, you're not really too concerned, what you're intaking. Whereas with medicinal, depending on what's ailing you, you might have to really keep track on what the toxins are that you're putting into your body. Be mindful of all of that, and also like the different concentrations and your different ratios. If that really makes a difference to you, then it's medicinal for sure.
We've often talked about the different testing systems that are out there and how important it is specifically for medicinal patients to have a full terpene profile so they can see exactly what's in the cannabis. If they know that there are certain underlying trace chemicals that really help their issue, if you need limonene, if you need some of these other things, you'd be able to get that data. Colin, what about you? Did you weigh in yet? Medical versus rec? Okay.
I would say not much. Like, honestly, I feel it's like two circles that like overlap pretty much the whole way. I would say that just working at a dispensary or provisioning center, retailer, whatever you'd like to call it. At first, when they switched over, a lot of the medical products became rec products if they were in like inventory for 30 days or so. So it was like hard to explain like to customers when they could get like these two flavors, but they couldn't have like all 6 of those ones over there because those ones are medical because they're not in the inventory as long. And it was kind of like similar with flour. Like we would have similar flours, both on rec and medical side from the same testing facility with similar percentages, and that would also like confuse people because sometimes like one of them would be like a little bit higher percentage and people would just want that one even though like the other one was the one that they could purchase.
Right, of course.
So
always want what you can't have.
Like
For
everybody
sure.
want
I
like,
would demand it.
you want like the one that's testing like 1% higher, but like it'll cost you like $10 more an eighth because it's recreational or something like that. And I don't know, it's kind of confusing. I feel it's just really who holds the card. People who don't really use it for medical purposes use it for protection and whatnot too. I feel, and at least that's kind of like where I came from, and you know, because I was like arrested, and I kind of everybody smoked weed, so I mean, it didn't seem like it was much of a big deal, like being an adult in Michigan, and so I felt like once I was off probation, I could acquire it, and you know, and then I met all you guys, and my life was changed.
Speaking of being an adult in Michigan, happy birthday recently, Colin. Did we say that
Yeah.
already?
Yes.
No, we have
Oh,
not
yeah.
yet.
See,
Wow.
you're so bad. You're so
Well,
bad.
on the show, we haven't gotten there yet. It's gonna make a bigger, better deal out of it.
Terrible,
Wow.
terrible host.
And you just ruined it. So
I'm glad that I did. Yeah.
I apologize on Rick's behalf.
Hey, Colin, you mentioned something again. People would be willing to pay even $10 more just to chase 1% THC higher content. So you can see a couple of different things with that story. First of all, that people out there sometimes are really just chasing that THC. They're just chasing the high. But secondly, you also see where there's an incentive for companies to perhaps, let's just say, cheat. Sometimes in a testing scenario, the lab that produces the highest THC number oftentimes gets the business, and the one that maybe doesn't produce the greatest THC numbers, the laboratory may not get the business. But also, you'll see cultivation techniques that might stretch the definition of okay by doing certain things just to boost THC, perhaps at the expense of the health of the product. So, we have to be cognizant of that on a consumer level, but it's also not going to scare me away from using anything.
One other thing too is
just curiosity
that people who have medical cards sometimes just purchase CBD and they don't really use THC. They just feel that like the card will get them into like nicer facilities where they're more comfortable purchasing.
Or higher quality, probably too. They're figuring it's higher quality at the dispensary than from the fucking gas station where you can buy all the. Yeah.
When you put the two of these next to each other, I think a common person would say, well, isn't medical grade supposed to be better than just recreational? Although really the standards in the state don't demand that. That's a common perception. Whether that's accurate or not, I couldn't say. Maybe you guys are more trained than
well, wasn't there a particular lab that issued a bunch of bullshit results for several years and had people with weed with like 38% and bullshit like this, flour and stuff, people were like, whoa. And it turned out
allegedly, since Scott Roberts has joined us, I'll use the term allegedly.
Yeah, let's be safe here.
Yeah,
you introduce
Scott
Scott
in court of law yet.
Introduce Scott for us, Rick.
Yeah, well, just to finish up Deb's point, though, there is a lab that was absolutely penalized $100,000 for doing some incorrect stuff, and also having reviewed the reprimands that have been given by the Marijuana Regulatory Agency in 2019 and 2020, I see that there have been occasional times when other labs have been smacked with fines, typically $3,000, $5,000 first offense type fines, and they're typical chain of custody things or incorrect reporting. I don't see anything as far as a chain of real malicious intent out there on behalf of the testing industry to alter anything. The consequence is so great. If you screw with the MRA, you lose your license. What? Millions in the toilet. You just can't do that.
Now it's required to have a third party keep an eye on the results, where as before, when a lot of that stuff was going on, that was not the case.
I like the additional check valve too. To introduce our newest attendee, Scott Roberts is an attorney in Michigan. He's spoken at conferences all across the state. He has his own podcast and appeared on several different broadcasts that I'm aware of. Scott's just a great guy, and he stays involved in some of the organizations we have in the state too, trying to combine that legal knowledge with an advocacy soul. So good for you.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Scott Roberts.
I appreciate the kind words, Rick.
Kind words, they're easy.
Fair
Earning the kind words, because I don't fucking bullshit. I don't say anything I don't believe. I never do. So if I didn't believe it, I wouldn't have said it about you, man.
No, you decided to take on cannabis as kind of a focus or a specialty with your practice at one point, and as many people, you cover like a lot of the business stuff now, because that's where a lot of the activity is. Hopefully, a lot of the criminal stuff wanes if you were involved in that, and you can focus more on the business stuff. But I know that there's still some stuff out there, and I wanted to hear about your perspective on a lot of that. Like, changes that are supposed to be made versus what you're seeing, you know, and that type of thing, and kind of an up to date, you know, status on the transition into the new world here.
Yeah, I mean, where do you want me to begin? I guess.
So you're still in the courts in some cases, isn't that correct?
I mean, we will have some complaints that are filed that we feel are without merit or stretch the interpretation of the rules. You know, sometimes it feels like we're playing by the rules, but MRA is kind of just making up rules, which can be frustrating, which can, you know, sometimes lead to challenges, you know, usually on the administrative level though.
And I think, you know, perfect example would be the opt-out scenario. The department interpreted the MRTMA at one point as being an opt-out law, meaning if the community, the city or township did not opt out of the MRTMA, then a place could open up and then just apply for a license. You know, I can say as being at the table when drafting it, that was not the intent from my perspective. But that's how it was interpreted, and laws are subject to interpretation once they're out there. But you had a case which tested that, isn't that correct?
Yeah, because funny enough, I actually agreed with you. The way I read it is, well, they still have to comply with zoning. They still have to get a certificate of occupancy. And, you know, municipality isn't under no compulsion to just give someone a certificate of occupancy if they haven't regulated or allowed that use. So I actually, you know, I did challenge it just because I guess it was the thing to do at the time. And, you know, the MRA director was going around saying, we will license these. So I guess I kind of was of the opinion, well, let's see, you know, let's put it to the test. Let's see if he actually does that. And yeah, so we did, I think about 4 in Detroit. You know, everyone was supposed to opt out. I think it was like November 1st, and they didn't do it till November 10th. So in that interim period, we put a bunch in, just to kind of see what would happen. And, you know, sure enough, they fell back and just said, well, you don't comply with zoning because there is no recreational zoning in the city of Detroit. So, you know, it turns out that, you know, practically speaking, it really was, and I would say still is, a statute where you don't really need to opt out. And I stand by that, even though, you know, there are some people who maybe disagreed with that and were very vocal about it. But, you know, in the end, it's, you know, the law is clear on many points, some points not so much, and that's really where it gets interesting. But, you know, some points I think it's pretty clear, and I should probably mute that.
That was me calling you, Scott. Just wanted to mess you up.
No, I mean, I should really mute this, or else I was just going to go off all day, this entire show. But yeah, we tried to test that, and, you know, turns out the law was what we thought it was. But, you know, there's all sorts of other things that are kind of ripe for that. And, you know, one thing I'm not really looking forward to, because it wouldn't exactly be a great thing for my client, but, you know, I read the MRTMA statute as not being discretionary when it comes to pre-qualification. You know, there's this shall approve language, and if you meet those requirements, MRA shall, meaning they must approve you. And when they wrote the rules in a way that gave themselves some subjective discretion. And, you know, we haven't had a denial, and hopefully we don't have one for a very, very, very long time. But I think that's another issue that is kind of ripe for challenge if, you know, someone meets those statutory qualifications but is denied for some other reason. You know, maybe, you know, they just had a string of drug felonies from a while ago, well, you know, whatever the case may be, then
maybe they one time shook hands with a caregiver, the Don Bailey standard, right? Yes.
So the discussion,
not 2018 anymore, but but yeah, I mean, I think that's something that's really ripe for challenge, and, you know, maybe I'll be the person to do that. Maybe some other law firm will be, but that's something I really want to see challenged.
I can tell you that the discussion in the room was that the standards not be subjective, and that we just set up the conditions so that it essentially just gets rubber stamped if they're met. But in reality, as you described, the department's kind of taken upon itself to take more control of the program than that.
Well, to theoretically take more control of the program, I mean, Scott correctly pointed out we really haven't seen a whole lot of declines, right? Because if we had seen the department acting in sort of a difficult way, attorneys like Scott would have already taken him to court over this issue. So even though they've reached that interpretation, it doesn't really seem like it's, at this point, it hasn't been an impediment. Would that be overstating it?
I'm not aware of anyone. I mean, I haven't been reading the licensing reports like I used to, but I'm not really aware of any rec declining, like MRA kind of saying no to anyone. So, you know, maybe they just kind of put that in there, but in reality, they're still kind of sticking to the language of the statute because they know a challenge like that is out there. But, you know, it's been years since we got our last denial. And we've gotten a lot of approvals in the interim. You know, a lot of that is just, you know, change in politics. We have, you know, an administration that doesn't really see the need to just kind of put up roadblocks and try to, you know, protect the industry in that way. But, you know, that's not to say in another couple of years, maybe we have a different governor who sees things differently, and maybe that will get, you know, kind of put back on the docket and something that will require, you know, a court challenge.
Scott, you've done a lot of work with individual licensees. What area of growth do you see as the greatest opportunity now in the cannabis industry in Michigan? I mean, clearly we have a shortage of testing facilities. We just seen Live announcing that they're going to expand their operations in one particular city by 5 times. So cultivation is exploding. What's your professional observation? What's the new hot topic in this country?
I mean, I guess the one thing that I think, you know, we're going to see more of, at least, is kind of branding, but not on the retail store level, but more on the product level. You're starting to see this a little bit, and you see this a lot more with processing than you do with flower. But, you know, I think, you know, getting into like, you know, newer genetics where, you know, you can, you know, not just call yours the Nightmare OG Kush or something, but, you know, kind of come up with the name that's not necessarily like Pleasantries or, you know, the actual company name, but something that's kind of a little more like a Bell's Two Hearted.
Like a store brand kind of like thing. It's like how like Guitar Center has like Pro Audio or something, or Kroger has like Simple Truth Organic, or kind of stuff like that, is what you're kind of saying?
I'm actually kind of taking it a step further and saying, you know, like something like, you know, I think that's part of it, but like Kroger brand this, or like I was just using the Bell's Two Hearted example where, you know, a new kind of strain hits the market, and, you know, you have that ability at that point to, at least right now, to control it and actually kind of brand it beyond just, you know, Nightmare OG cross with whatever, but to kind of give it a more unique, memorable name that maybe actually has some indication of what it's about. You know, because, you know, a lot of times people, even people who are very familiar and knowledgeable about these things, you know, they might see something, you know, some cross this, cross with that, and, you know, they're not going to really know, okay, what's the end effect? Tell me what it's going to do. Is it going to be put me on the couch? Is it going to, you know, am I going to go to a concert and have a great time and be super social? You know, what is that end effect? And kind of using that brand as a way to describe that, I think is an opportunity that's out there. And I know there's some companies in out of state, they'll have like Awake and something. I think that's a little kitschy, to be honest with you, but something that's kind of like a bridge between those two. Like, so let's just take the brand that, you know, glues you to the couch. Maybe you call that couch potato. something where you can kind of get what it is. And then, if that's a unique strain and, you can then start, producing it for other people, then, I think there's opportunity there. And I think that's something we'll start seeing once all these growers come up and we finally are in a position in our market where, there is a bit of a flower shortage, or at least a shortage of good flower. I think that's maybe the next step for a lot of these growers, is kind of going beyond just pumping out Nightmare OG. And I say that because that's what I'm growing in my basement right now. But to actually, start playing around and getting your own genetics, and then creating something, unique and branding it that way. I think that's something that we're going to start seeing, but not something we've really seen yet.
Scott, I can tell you that during the I'm sorry, Jamie, you want to go ahead?
That's okay. Go ahead.
During the pre-legalization era, certainly caregivers in Michigan created some fantastic genetics and pioneered some of the most wonderful strains. And if we were to stretch that out, DJ Short with the blueberry strain, how would someone who's created what they believe to be as a brand new, unique strain of cannabis, how would they go about protecting that particular product, whether it's through patent or trademark or what process? And is that even possible to do at this point?
So that's something we've looked into, and something because I don't really have an intellectual property background, I can't really explain with a lot of detail, other than, with the name, we can trademark the name here in the state of Michigan, not federally, but at least we have that protection. And I know there is kind of a looming patent battle going on with some of these kind of strains, and also the methods and processes for, kind of creating some unique strains in the business. And it's something I've kind of had on my list of things to look into, and maybe post a couple articles about. I haven't really gotten to it quite yet. It's been a busy couple months, but I think that is kind of the next big, I would say, legal battle, is, who owns the rights to these strains. And if you own, one strain and then someone crosses it with a totally different strain, what happens with that cross? Is that something that one of the people who owns one of the kind of parent strains, can they go after you for that? Do they have protection over that? That's something that's going to be very interesting, and I don't even know how it's going to play out, to be honest.
We've seen examples of that type of conflict in the agriculture industry. If you think about Monsanto and their specific strains of corn, and most of us that live in Michigan know people that say, look, if that Monsanto corn pollen blows into my field, they can come test my corn and find out if it's genetically similar to the Monsanto, and if so, they're entitled to just take the whole crop and just destroy it. So identifying ownership of these particular cultivars or strains is something that is done already in science, but it's really not been addressed here. Can you imagine someone saying, I own the rights to cookies, and everything that's sold that has the name cookies in it across the United States of America, you owe me a bounty? Can you imagine that?
I can imagine it, unfortunately. As a lawyer, you can imagine a lot of scenarios. It's kind of part of the job, is to come up with all these, what if this happens, what if that happens. And I certainly hope it doesn't go in that direction, but to use your example, Monsanto, they were suing all those farmers, and these farmers were cultivating their own kind of genetics just by just the way, people used to do it. It's like, all right, this was a good one, we'll take this and replant it. And then you take the best from that and you just keep on replanting. And, it's old school, but it works. But then, you have Monsanto come in and, a gusty day, it cross-pollinates. And then all of a sudden you have some of that Monsanto genetics in there. And Monsanto was suing anyone and everyone in that situation. And granted, there's probably some situations where that person also had their genetics go into a Monsanto field, and they probably didn't sue that farmer, but that's a possibility, unfortunately.
When you're playing at that level, though, right, Scott? I mean, when you're talking about the millions, perhaps even billions of dollars in agricultural products there, a lawsuit against somebody, strategic lawsuit against a competitor or against someone that might have your proprietary information out there. That's commonplace. And our industry may have not had that for a long time, but as soon as we get patent and trademark battles, those things will be commonplace. Don't you agree?
Oh yeah, well, what's going to be interesting is once this goes federally legal and you can start getting federal trademarks, you know, you'll see this a lot. You'll have, you know, let's call it Green Dragon dispensary over in Oregon, and then you may have Green Dragon dispensary in Michigan, and then Green Dragon dispensary in California. They all file a federal trademark. You know, one person's going to say, well, I opened up first. But then another person could say, well, before I opened up, I was the equivalent of a caregiver and I had this strain and it was using Green Dragon. Therefore, I'm first. And, you know, I could see that really being interesting because you see this where, you know, companies just inadvertently, there's only so many marijuana puns you can use, and everyone loves to use these marijuana puns when they name their stores. Where, you know, incidentally, people will use the same names and not even realize it. And then, you know, no one can really federally trademark it at this point. So it's not really a big deal now. But once you can start doing that and there's all these conflicting claims, it's going to get messy, like really messy.
Roach, I saw you wanted to jump in there, man.
Well, yeah, no. You know, I gotta say, you know, hosting Medical Mondays every Monday, 9 to 11 on YouTube. We've had a lot of different growers and processors come on the show, and there have been times where they come on as a point or as a way to express or say their side in some type of strain beef as it be. And you know, it's really hard to call it, but it's kind of amongst the people. The people decide who's got the real one, you know, the people decide, and the plant itself, you know. So I don't know. I think, you know, the trademarking and all of that is good, but we got to watch how far we let that go, because I think it could ruin the market.
I agree 100%. You don't want to stifle innovation, and you know that's a good way to do it. If every little thing is patented and trademarked and everyone has a claim on everything, and someone has one of those, you see this in the tech industry, super broad claim, like a claim that storing music and electronic files on a device for replay, something that's just so broad and just so obvious, but someone managed to get a patent on it. And then you start getting the potential for marijuana patent trolls. And, you know, I read an article about this a few months ago. I just blanking on some of the details, but there is a company that's buying up a lot of these patents. And there's a couple just absurdly broad patents that you just wonder, you know, in 5 years from now, is someone gonna make a claim on that just because they use a grow method that, you know, people had used before that patent and continue to use after. And then all of a sudden, you know, someone makes a claim on it. And, you know, if you're just a small grower, are you going to be able to defend the $100,000 plus infringement lawsuit? And that's, I mean, you see this in the tech industry, and I don't think there's any reason to believe it might not happen in the marijuana industry.
American history is full of stories about little guys who had great inventions and somebody gobbled it up, and then the little guys died in poverty because somebody else grabbed it up and took the patent and trademark. And Roach, I think your point is really well taken. There's a lot of people out there that have done some amazing genetics work on their own without technical training, and they could potentially get washed down the drain, man. It would be shit.
Well, no,
Jamie?
I mean, like, I'll give you an example. You know, hypothetical, of course. I'm not calling anybody out, but like, you know, let's say there's people working together, you know, One guy is, he's the grower, he's the breeder, he's got the knowledge and the love and the intention to create some wonderful strains. Now, he can only do one great thing at a time. So he's focusing on producing this great plant. So, he's got another guy who's helping him, and he's good, but he's not as good. So, there's like two versions of like this really great strain now. And one grower might feel that this isn't up to par and say this is trash. And then the other people in the deal feel like, hey, this is just a crop that he doesn't want in on because he said it was trash. So now they're passing along unstable genetics. They're passing along second grade flower. And, what can the first grower do to protect himself from the greed of the second grower?
Really, since there's nothing on paper, right? Because I mean, I've been involved in some of these, and it's a handshake, it's an understanding, it's a brotherhood kind of thing. And then when brotherhood goes sour, there's nothing to define who is who. So, Scott, isn't it oftentimes the guy who files first, regardless of what happened before that date?
Generally, yeah, that's the rule. Though, these sort of handshake, nothing in writing situations, it always ends up in court. And that's the sad fact of it. A lot of times it's like among family members, and you'll have a brother suing a brother, a cousin suing a cousin, an uncle suing a nephew. And I wish I could not just think of about a half a dozen to a dozen experiences right off the top of my head that fit that bill exactly. But I can. And that is going to be something where it gets really messy, because then, who did it first? Who filed first? Because even if you filed first, you can still use kind of a prior art. Well, I still had it first, so that's a defense. So there's not a clear answer in those situations. And generally that's when the courts need to get involved. And then that gets really expensive and really messy.
Well,
Here's the thing though, Scott. Like, you can have a plant and produce some seeds and pass it on. That doesn't guarantee though that you're going to get that exact same phenotype. It's what you decide to move forward with, if that's what you want to do, or if you trash the plant and continue searching through the strain and finding the pheno that's whatever classically known as for that strain. So I think it's really hard to try to put a patent on something like that. I think people are going to have to like stand on their name, like when it comes to lemonade. There's no patent on lemonade, but you can't, just say this is Mike's Hard Lemonade. So I think it's going to have to be something more like that, because the plant itself is just way too dynamic to try to put in a little box.
Well, I'm so sure people will still try to do that, though.
For sure.
And you're
There's
right,
money
though,
involved.
the least of that, the better, because it just clogs everything up and stops productivity and stops innovation. And this is an emerging industry. We need to kind of go forward with those things to get established.
Really, if you think about Michigan, 35,000 caregivers out there, that's 35,000 individual mad scientists creating wonderful things in their basement. But if those 35,000 people believe that it's all for naught and that someone can just sweep in and grab their genetics and take it away and patent it and they get nothing, probably not as many people being mad scientists in their basement anymore.
That's a rough one. I kind of hope that that doesn't go too far in the challenges and that kind of stuff, because it is too complex to really just make a challenge every little move like that. Scott, early on, I know that you took interest in and focused on the micro business, micro opportunities, and yet it doesn't seem like those have really taken off. Do you have any idea what's going on with that? Or
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of projects in the works, and Probably we'll see the first one open up, at least among my clients, within the next month or so. And then we have a couple more that we should be able to open up by the end of the year. But what we're seeing, the roadblock there, is the municipalities. It's something they just don't know about. They're not familiar with. I can't take them, I was in a municipality about, I don't know, 2 months ago. And, I had a client that was looking to do a micro business there. And they were like, well, we like the idea, but we want to see one. Can you take us to a micro business? And I was just like, no, not at the moment. Soon, but not at the moment. Because, and you see the same thing with the consumption lounge or the designated consumption area, where because there's not that one, then that's the excuse for the municipalities to say, we'll circle back to this. Let us see how it works, and then we'll do it. And when they all do that, it makes it tough. So what we're seeing in the municipalities is that it's that kind of unknownness that is making it tough. And because, there's just not a lot of opportunities, there's not a lot of projects at the moment. Though we're starting to see, I think, a little change in that, Royal Oak, which I did kind of, do a lot of speaking at those meetings. They're going to do 2 and only doing 2 retailers. So, I think that's a great start. Lansing did it. Westland allowed 1. Decatur allows them. So there's, some places, a lot of the projects we have are in cities you will never have heard of, because a lot of times those are kind of good places for the micro, because the retail doesn't really make sense in, a place that has population 2,000 people and maybe, 10,000 people and a 10 or 15 mile radius. It may not make sense with the cost to bring everything in and transport it and to buy wholesale to be actually really be able to make money in these rural areas. But when you're micro, it's all there. And you don't have to do that huge volume because you're producing it yourself. You have the margin. So I think that's a great place for micro, but I also think it has a role in these kind of more urban areas, like a Metro Detroit. There's a place for that. And, people, just like farmers markets, they work even when there's a grocery store. I think that's something that will still work. It's just, they just need to be given the opportunity to work.
See, some people may not realize that the micro businesses actually require an additional authorization by local communities. You authorize the 5 medical businesses, and oftentimes communities would authorize those 5 legalized businesses too, but then they don't add on the additional things like you talked about, the event coordinator and the micro business, the micro grow. So oftentimes you have to go back to a community and ask them to pass an additional ordinance authorizing those specific centers. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I will actually take that one step further and say, because this just happened to me, where those pre-existing licensees are fighting against the micro business.
Naturally.
They don't want the competition. So not only are you going to have to convince, the township board of trustees, city council that this is okay, but then you have, people who have already kind of been established there for a year or two fighting against you and saying, I've heard micro business, everyone's just going to lose the money. Just don't do it. You're going to save them money by just allowing it. And I'm like, well, that's cute that you care about us like that. But, at least let us make our own mistakes if that's how you really feel. So that's a whole new barrier where, you have the actual licensees fighting against you because they don't want another retail establishment there.
And they're concerned about the profitability of the micro business because it's really self-contained and not designed to heavily interact with the rest of the supply chain. Ryan Basore, could you please mute your microphone? Thank you, dude. But it's kind of self-contained and doesn't interact with the rest of the supply chain.
Yeah, there's the thing, like people are like, well, you may only make, only do 1 million or 1.5 million in revenue. And they always think, well, if it was a retail store, if they're doing that, they're really not making that much money. 280. They may not even be making money, especially if you think Detroit, where you have a lot of security costs that really eat into things. But you just got to realize it's a different business. I promised I was going to mute it. So, there still can be profitable, making $1 million. I mean, we've run the numbers where, I don't know how you grow. You could do 2 million in revenue or potentially more. It just depends on, how many plants a light and how you do it and what strains you grow, all that fun stuff. But you can still make money, and you can make money in $1 million, and maybe you make 200 or 250,000, which a lot of people in this business will just scoff at, like, oh, 250, congratulations. But let's not pretend that's good money. 250,000 for running a business, you're making more than most McDonald's franchises for sure. So, that's still good money, and that's an opportunity for people. It's not an opportunity for everyone. Some people just want to go big, and, more power to them, but not everyone wants to build an empire. Some people just want to run a mom and pop store and make a couple 100,000, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
So what about licking joints, Scott? That's kind of a topic right now. We talked about it on Medical Mondays yesterday.
No, I cannot talk about that one.
Okay. All right. Well, that was kind of an interesting story. I see we're being joined by Ryan Basore. Jamie, do you have any other wrap up that we need to?
Yeah, Scott, I want you to let people know how they can contact you if they're interested in talking to you about some work or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, you can go to our website, www.scottrobertslaw.com, or you could email us at info@scottrobertslaw.com.
And do you have a podcast too, Scott? Are you doing a regular broadcast people could tune in?
Oh, no, I don't have time for that. But I do love to go on other people's podcasts. So, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, we'll have you back on. Yeah, and you're welcome to hang out if you'd like to sit in or participate, whatever you'd like to do.
We can hang out for another 15
Okay. I'm not sure if you've met our next guest, Ryan Basore. He's got a very interesting story. I think there's some sound issue.
Can you hear me, Jamie?
There you go. Yep. There he is, and he's been on a few times before, and just a pioneer in this industry. His story is long and interesting. He ends up having to go to federal prison for doing what was legal under state law. He came out and he launched a product line of quality cannabis called Redemption, and has gotten that underway, and has also designated a portion of the proceeds to go toward helping people who have been adversely affected by cannabis prohibition over the years. And that foundation that's representing that activity just got launched. So we wanted to talk to you about that and have you describe what's going on with that and hype that up a little bit.
Welcome to Jazz Cabbage, Ryan Basore.
Well, thanks, guys. Good to be back on. Yep, and so like Jamie said, I finally filed and got the official paperwork for a 501c3 for the Redemption Foundation, and we announced it here last week. The advisory panel and the board, and have a lot of great people on that are going to be helping, Rick and Jamie included. So it's exciting, and it's all people over the past 10, 20 years that I have personal relationships with that I feel like I can count on and are passionate about it and believe in the same things and believe in what I'm doing. And that's to help anyone that's still in jail for cannabis get out. It's to help, educate and influence the decision makers on criminal justice reform, programs to get people that are coming out of prison or have been in with felonies and struggling to get work, whether it be in the cannabis industry or in skilled trades, and a lot of stuff based on my experience of going through the system and understanding how hard it is to get back on your feet and to get through it without a good support group. So I'm excited to be launching and going finally. And the first thing that we're completely focusing on is trying to get Michael Thompson out of jail.
So Ryan, there's been a lot of talk about Michael Thompson recently, and as part of the Cannabis Caucus of the Michigan Democratic Party, I was able to speak with Attorney General Dana Nessel just maybe 10 days ago in regards to this. How can Redemption Cannabis help improve Michael Thompson's chances of being released from prison? And what are you seeking to do if he's able to get popped out?
So that's good. As we formed it, and some of the people on the advisory panel, have personal relationships with the governor, and of course a lot of us do with the attorney general. But we're getting into what looks to be the bottleneck. Seems to be this stance that they keep coming back saying, well, the parole board has to send it up there, and then the governor can approve it no matter what they say. So just really diving into that. We are lucky to have, I probably shouldn't say them over the phone, but some really good contacts that haven't been involved yet that do have the governor's ear, and a lot of the people up there that we're working with, that I'm gonna let you guys know, and we'll see how that goes. But feel like with I know there's been a lot of help from a lot of people, but some really some influential people that are gonna maybe really put the pressure on, because it makes no sense that he's still in there. It's a political winner. It's the right thing to do. And then we're also working hard to get the information. What is the process of when he gets out? Okay, does he have to go to a halfway house? Does he have a place to stay? What is he looking at? And that process, and having a plan even for the governor and the parole board of helping when they let him out, and not just have him come out and have it all willy-nilly. So like I said, we're brand new, couldn't do this until we were actually filed and have to do everything legally, but now we are, and we're ready to go with a lot of great people like yourselves to help. And and I did speak with the Attorney General about it as well, and she's fired up and and on board, and that's helpful.
We've got a lot of wonderful attorneys on that advisory board that Jamie and I have been named to. If there's a legal precedent, or if there's a legal avenue through which they can encourage the governor to commute the sentence without the parole board actually having weighed in on it, they'll find that, I'm sure. So yeah. I'm sure you guys want it.
Yep, and our good friend Dennis Shornack, who was the policy advisor for Engler and Snyder, and also some federal stuff. He's digging into that right now as hard as he can. I spoke with him this afternoon, and what we can come up with ASAP. So
that's a good connection, and he cares about that kind of stuff too. So
I saw the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association made a positive statement about Michael Thompson. Also, I think all of the organizations in Michigan, whether they are consumer-based organizations like Normal, or whether they're corporate-based organizations like the MICIA, everybody's focused on this particular thing. This would be a big win for our community if we could influence the governor and the attorney general to make some kind of action on this. Beyond Michael Thompson, there are other people that are still incarcerated federally, perhaps, and could use some aid. Redemption Cannabis looks to help the people that are still behind bars. Isn't that right?
Yeah, so we're going to be uber Michigan focused, but we're also looking federally at all the cannabis prisoners as they're still out there. That's what happened to me. I was a federal cannabis prisoner in West Virginia. Like my friend, Jeremy Duvall, I was in federal prison with Jeremy, and his dad, Gerald Duvall, is still in. That's just insane. And there's cases from out west, some of these dispensary cases that people are still in on, and so that's a big focus, at least from the start, getting money on their books immediately. It's such a different world in prison. The difference between having $300 on your books to having none changes your whole outlook in there, and your ability to do things and not be manipulated, and just quality of life. But then family support, but also like starting to work hard. Let's see what happens in the fall, but let's work. And there's a lot of national groups that I've been in contact with, and they've been great to get all these guys out of jail, and women.
You know, Brian, I realize that a portion of each one of the sale of a redemption product goes towards this fund, but what if someone was inspired to just contribute to your fund because they love what you're trying to represent and what you're trying to do? Is there a vehicle through which someone could write a check to your foundation just to help you along?
Yep, and like we just got our papers, back from the state, so the bank account is currently being set up, and soon we'll have a website up, and it'll have a link right on it, and we'd love that. I do see a lot of. It's awesome that a lot of dispensaries and cannabis businesses are starting to donate to the Last Prisoner Project, but we can. If you're in Michigan and we got people in Michigan that need help, this is another alternative, and let's see what we can do. We have the people on the board and the group have a great track record, so I'm expecting a lot of that. I know a testing lab that's going to give a portion of every test to the Redemption Foundation. There's already a couple of dispensaries that are itching to have special sales where a portion goes to it, so it qualifies for a lot of social equity. For social equity plans, which you guys had a hand in writing that into law, so I'm thankful for that, and it's great. And there's a lot of companies out there that really believe in the social equity and are doing it for that, but whether it's good or not, or the reason why, there's a lot of companies now that have switched their tune and have turned to social equity because that's what's actually sells now. That's what the consumer wants to hear. So we've seen some of the companies in Michigan go from attacking caregivers to being all about social equity. So, hey, whatever the reason is, I like that aspect of it a lot better than attacking caregivers. So,
Yeah. Well, that was certainly a disgusting display in Lansing of attacking caregivers trying to portray what's being produced in Michigan under the medical marijuana laws as poison and as dirty. But Ryan, you're in a bunch of different centers right now as far as it goes. Where could someone find some of those redemption products if they wanted to support your cause by making that purchase?
So I'm in a lot of spots, and a lot of them are people that are, that I've known for a long time, or some people that I have a personal relationship with. So first and foremost, Tawas Botanical Company. I'm in Riverside now in Kalkaska. Todd and Jody are wonderful people. Of course, Oma Medicine, Arborside, Urbana, Sticky Ipsy, Sticky Detroit, and Cloud and Muskegon, the Farmhouse, Lake Effect, I'll be in Doja soon, in Lansing, also Homegrown, and Gauge Cookies. And right now, it's tough, as everyone knows, to get enough supply to keep all these and get everybody happy with products. So I'm ramping that up. I've got great strategic partners. There's a new one coming on board, my friends at Franklin Fields, and that's going to be there's going to be a lot more redemption products available soon, and I'm excited. And about 80-90% of them are going to be rec products.
One of the great things about Redemption, although your foundation is wonderful, but one of the great things about Redemption is how you built this particular organization with some key strategic partners. Talk for a minute about the Bellers and some of the other key strategic partners you have, the people behind actually the production of those Redemption products that we enjoy.
Of course. Yeah, it was, it's been the best. I mean, it's been really a great part of it to make my life so much easier. And I'm working with Real Leaf Solutions up in Kalkaska, Tom and Krista Beller, and I've known them since 2015, late 2015. Tom's been a caregiver since right when the law started, and he's a great grower and someone that I helped get his spot in Kalkaska into the process. And then I remember me and Jamie would jump on a phone call with Tom and help him and answer questions. And then there's Drew Driver at Driven Grow, who I met on a road trip in 2000, recruiting them. And there's a history ever since with him. And Drew's another longtime caregiver that's figured out how to scale up. Also, Fresh Coast Extracts, Sam and Elliot up in Kalkaska. I met those guys on the road looking for municipalities opting in, and been in some pretty wild meetings with those guys by how young they were and how smart they were, and then their love for cannabis. And then I was a true cannabis who and he hired me to do social media. We became friends, and he always had my back whether it be donating for city council race, legalization, whatever it was. Kevin was always there and coming to the meetings, and they're all great people, love cannabis, and I don't have to worry about when they're packaging up with my brand, their products. They have such high standards and such love for it. You know, I'm not going through what so many people who do, in other businesses do what I do and worry about product quality and standards, and because theirs are probably higher than mine, to be honest with you. So it makes my life pretty easy. And then the next person coming on board is Franklin Fields, which is Rush Chambers and the botanical company, which Jamie's involved with, and I'm involved in different ways. And I've gotten to know those guys, and one of the growers and part owner of that is also one of my longtime buddies for 20 years. So it's just a bunch of people that love cannabis, that have been doing it a long time. And one thing that strikes me about these companies is the high up, the presidents and the people making decisions are also the ones with the most cannabis knowledge, and they're the ones in the building getting their hands dirty still. And man, does that make a difference.
Ryan, it's a great network that you've built. It's a great product, too. I know Kalkushka is just a wonderful brand. Can you tell us a little bit more about what Redemption offers? You got diamonds, you got some pre-rolls. Give us a breakdown of what you're selling.
Yep, so we have prepackaged eights. Right now that's by 3 different growers, soon to be 4. We have 1 gram pre-rolls, and also 0.75 pack pre-rolls. We have diamonds, THC diamonds. We have live resin carts. We're soon to have a lot more, but live resin batter. And let's see, we're working on getting an RSO line of gummies, because I'm a big believer in RSO and what that does. But those are the main things. Good thing is I've learned a lot launching in a pandemic, a cannabis business, and trying to order packaging, getting packaging from China. We've pivoted, and our new packaging that'll be here and by the end of the year and completely switched over is all done in the United States. So I'm excited about that, and you never know what the world has in store for us next year.
Well, you've really made it a big focus to buy Michigan, stay in Michigan, and employ Michigan people in all aspects, including graphic design. Jamie?
Well, I'm just going to tell Ryan Shelly Smith has jumped on in the meantime, and I'm sure would like to say hi.
Oh, hey. Are you
Nick?
not on camera? Oh,
See,
no, I can't see your face.
No.
No, he's staying off camera, but
I'm mobile.
He's
still
intimidated by my awesome background. He can't compete, can't hang. So,
can still hear you saying hi, and I'm sure he appreciates it. You would see that on the expression on his face if he was on.
The Smoke and Ropes podcast is all audio.
Hey,
Yeah.
Big Bugliotti.
Hey, talk about the Smoke and Rope, man. You have a new podcast that's got 3 or 4 episodes out now.
Yep, we've had 4 episodes so far.
Ryan, your audio is really bad right now, my brother.
You kind of cutting out.
He's driving, he says, so hopefully get to a good area here in a second, and then we'll have to ask him to repeat what he just said.
How am I sounding?
You sound
you're
really good now, man. What's going on with Smoke and Rope?
Okay, well, it's
Nope.
Pulling a
Oh,
wreck.
it's weird. No.
It's not just
Can't
me.
hear
It's
ya.
not just me. Oh, other people have that problem too. Shelly, I was like 20 minutes late on the show today because I couldn't get the thing to work. The computer.
The most recent episode of Smoke and Ropes is with Robin Schneider, and it's
And he's had Senator Irwin on another show too.
Yep, that was like last week's.
Yeah.
Yep. And can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, we have Tom Beller, Sam Brzezinski, and Kevin Pybus, and those guys are all owners and part of Redemption, and we try to give a good perspective of what's happening, on boots on the ground in cannabis in Michigan, even with a more of a industry type flair to it, because that's what we do. And we feel the move in the market when, it was about a month ago when the medical pound shot up $300-400 in a week, and just talking about that and why and what to expect and what's going to happen here in early January, February when there's no more caregiver product that's been run through, and what does that do to prices. So it's fascinating to me. But Smoking Roll Podcast, we're going to be talking a lot more next week about the Redemption Foundation and Michael Thompson, and this Friday we're going to be going over some more social equity stuff and announce our guest tomorrow. So it's fun. We're not seasoned pros like you guys, so we're working like that, but it's fun, and I'm glad to be doing it.
Where can they find that, Ryan? Is that on Facebook or is that YouTube? What is it?
Yeah, Facebook, but it's just or the website www.redemptioncanada.com. Go to Facebook. Right on the Facebook page is a link, and it's the backstory, and we'll be having more. It's also on Podbeam, and it's on app. We just got on Apple and all those, so we're just getting going with that as well.
Well, they're good, man. Don't believe it when he says he's not a pro, because there's good info there and everything works well.
Yeah. Just usually about 30 minutes. We like to hit a topic and hit it hard, and going to keep doing that. We're looking forward to doing it. We want to be polished by the time we go to. We'd like to be doing it live from the Kalkushka Lounge in Kalkaska once every week. So a lot of taste testing and things like that.
That will be fun. The Kalkushka Lounge would be a social consumption lounge, one of the very first in the state, if not the first to open in the state. And to do a live broadcast from there, that's pretty great. We might actually have to come up and do a special Jazz Cabbage broadcast from that event, too.
We'll make it a podcast palooza there all day long. Bring up Planet Green Trees, too.
Podcast Palooza? Get that website right now. That's awesome.
Get Reeds and Weeds and Medical Mondays up there too.
Okay.
There you go. And Shelly, I still got to come on Reeds and Weeds. I apologize.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you. I know last time we talked about your foundation, you were still just in launch phase of everything, so we didn't have that much to talk about, but I'd love to talk to you about that again whenever you're ready.
Okay, cool. Yep. I'm making the circuit.
Yeah.
Well, it's good, though. I mean, the fact that people are really paying attention to the redemption launch, the social equity part of it, it just keys in on a whole bunch of other actions that are going on in society around us where social equity is really highly focused on. We've had articles in national publications evaluating Michigan's social equity program versus Illinois or versus some of the things they do in California. And I think our state program is a little lacking. And perhaps the private industry, like Redemption, needs to jump in to be able to help make up the difference so that we can actually see the realization of that thought that people disadvantaged by the war on drugs really should get a leg up.
Well, yeah, that's exactly how I got going. Was Gage Cannabis decided to give me $50,000 as a grant to start it because I have been affected by the war on cannabis, and that was all private. And I did hear, and I have heard from the state that they do hope, and this was like 9-10 months ago, they really want private businesses to take the lead and do what they can and are really hopeful that happens, along with them trying to figure it out, which they're trying to figure it out. They've changed it for the better, obviously. They're not completely tone deaf on it. So yeah, let's let there's a lot. Michigan's got a lot of cannabis activists in the businesses, so that's what we should.
And
Can I ask? Did you guys already talk about the news yesterday about the Democrats trying to put a lot of cannabis legislation into COVID bills? Did you guys read about that and talk about it already?
Pretty standard stuff, though. Those type of bills that come through Washington are how a lot of things get funded. That's why you see outrage over the Republicans throwing a bunch of money in there for the Defense Department in their version, because that's typically how these additional riders are done. Some of the things that we've gotten for the cannabis industry across the past couple of years have come in budget bills as little teeny add-ons and other types of legislation. So it's kind of the way that the federal government does things as far as passing that stuff. Those bills are always full of what they call pork. These extra things.
Yeah.
Deb, you were going to say?
I wasn't saying anything. I was just lighting my joint. That's
That
all.
says it all.
That's right. Shelley, what observation did you want to make about that?
Oh, I didn't know if it had already been talked about. There was one rep from one state, and it was my favorite quote. It was something like, it was something like, I guess I don't have too strong of an opinion on cannabis, but at least once a day, I wonder how it's fair that people are making millions of dollars and people are still in jail about it. Wait, come to think of it, I have really strong opinions about cannabis. Do you guys know who I'm talking about? It was a quote.
I do. I think it's a candidate for office in one of the states, but I did see that.
Yeah,
It's a good quote. It's a good quote.
It was a good quote because it was like, oh yeah, if you're not thinking about it, if you're like, oh, I guess I don't care one way or the other, but then you think about it and you go, well, then think about it. Then think about it.
It's like a meme. It's like a meme or something. We should make a meme with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like, well, if you don't have really strong opinions, then you haven't thought about it. They're trying to say it doesn't have anything to do with criminal justice reform or the financial kind of package, but it's like, of course it does.
Right.
Of course it does. And so reading through all the quotes from different people from different states, that was my favorite quote because it was somebody who was actually like giving it some thought. It was a possible leader giving it some thought.
Yeah, presenting a perspective in a memorable way. So, so Ryan, anything you'd like to make sure you leave us with, and definitely the site and stuff like that again, just so people can check out the story, maybe donate.
It's excuse me, it's www.redemptioncanada.com, and soon we'll have the redemptionfoundation.com up and going. And you can always go on Instagram and everything. All my social media handles are at Redemption Canada. But expect big things. I've been really just almost feel like I've been on taking a break. It's not like that. I've had a lot of things going on with health and personal, and trying to build a business. Haven't feel like after 10 years of activism, I haven't been doing what I should be doing. So here's a chance. It feels good to get back at it, and I know there's a lot of people on there that feel the same way I do. So we've got a lot of momentum. The world's waking up about criminal justice and reform and cannabis being illegal, and whether this everything that's happened in the pandemic and Black Lives Matter, there are the positives to come out of that is people finding out about this stuff that we've known for well over a decade and have been fighting for to change. So we got a lot more allies now.
Yes. Well said. We do. And of course, the burden has never been greater because we're closer to our goal. We need to make sure that we shape the program in the way that we intended it, not in the way that market forces or special interest groups decide they want it to be.
Yep, that's why we love Michigan.
Yeah. Ryan, you're welcome to hang around for the rest of the show if you like. If you need to bug out, we'd understand that too.
I do need to bug out. I appreciate it, you guys. Sorry I couldn't be on video. I know that would help your ratings, but
for sure.
I love it.
Ryan, I wanted to invite you. I know how busy you are, but just because you're into this, Nick Zattel wanted to do a 200th anniversary of a poem called The Mask of Anarchy. So he called me to see if we could live stream it on Reeds and Weed, and we're gonna take donations for, I'm trying to look up the name of the organization right now, but it is a bail, like a community bail fund. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I don't.
Anyway, so we're going to be, I was just trying to stay on the social equity kind of train there, but it's the, oh man. Anyway, we're donating whatever we collect to an organization that I cannot find right now, but it is kind of like a community bail organization.
There's some details on is being promoted like on social media and stuff like that.
Yes. Matt, it's out there. I've been slowly but surely inviting people, but it's him. Yeah, it's him reading or hopefully reciting, but it's super long. Mask of Anarchy. It's the 200th anniversary of it's pretty timely and interesting because
Marathon.
The Mask of Anarchy was written after a big protest got violent, after a peaceful protest got violent, but it was 200 years ago. And he has been learning it, and we're going to collect money. And oh, here it is. It's called the Michigan Solidarity Bail Fund. So if we collect any money that day, it's going to the Michigan Solidarity Bail Fund to assist citizens who've been unlawfully detained. So yeah, that's happening Sunday at West Park Band Show. I'll invite you right now. Cool.
Thank you.
Very nice. Good deal.
Well, all right, Rick, Jamie, Colin, Deborah, Shelly, Jamie, I appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you very much. We'll have you back on and get some updates and see how things are going.
Best of luck with the foundation and everything else, Redemption. Good job, yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, man. So,
wow. Michigan has so many opportunities on so many different levels. People just don't appreciate. From outside, they look at it and they may see a picture of our industry. It's never a complete one. In fact, those of us even on the inside of this industry may not see all of the different opportunities that are out there. There are new ones popping up all the time. Reeds and Weeds is about to go national. Going to get a Sundance Channel show going on, and that'll be awesome, right?
it works.
Shelly's
Wow.
cover of People magazine. I could see it.
That's so exciting.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Colin.
Oprah.
Colin,
Oprah.
give an update on the what you know about the event this recent weekend in Detroit for the psychedelic.
I don't have an
Society.
update, but Shelly probably does.
I went on Saturday.
Excellent.
I went on Saturday, and it was we've all been to conferences and trade shows. This was the least boring. I mean, the names of, let me see if I can find let me tell you the name of the first speaker that I saw. The name of the talk was, oh my God, it was so incredible. The name of the talk was, are you ready? Subatomic particle research and exploration in the hyperdimensional realms, sacred systems of activating ancient DNA and expanding quantum awareness. That was one topic. And so it was a room full of really, really, really incredible people who seemed like they had been, walking the air for 10,000 years. I don't know. It was just a really super great vibe. And Julie did a great job. There was a bunch of members from other places that have also done decriminalized movements, and great stories. I bought an Ankh. Very excited about that. Went to see the Bean, what's his name? I think the Beantown Shaman. He's from Boston. His name is Dooley. He gave a great talk. It was just fantastic. If you get a chance to go to another psychedelic conference, go. Your mind will be blown. You'll learn a lot. You'll meet people who've experienced a lot and see the world in a completely different way. So I'd say it was pretty darn successful.
It's quite a pitch. Nice. Good.
It was
Very nice.
super cool. I mean, I can't even tell you.
It's difficult nowadays to find any events to attend when you find an event that's really, inspirational and made it expand your mind. Hard to come by.
It was
Rick,
awesome.
Do you still have a video that you're trying to play, or that you would like to play? Did that happen at the beginning of the show? Or you're trying to play a video? Or did I misunderstand what you were saying?
Who are you speaking to?
I'm speaking to you. So that simultaneously answers my question.
We were talking about it. We were like, he has some sort of video to play.
Did you
No,
mean
I think he was having video issues.
the video of himself? Okay.
Right.
Maybe that's what it was.
I could play a
that? Is
video of
that
myself
Zeta?
for you, if that's what you
Who's
really want.
barking?
It's not Zeta, it's the other one, the
No,
loud
that's Sherman.
Sherman.
Sherm. What's up, Sherm?
It's all worked up. It's all hepped up.
Sherman is an exhibitionist on Monday
He's all
nights.
hopped up. Oh yeah.
Can be. I've been saving it lately though, because people were getting spoiled.
What do you think, Roach? Were we spoiled by Sherman's display of manliness each week?
I mean, if that's what you're into, then yeah, we were definitely spoiled.
Yeah. Okay. That might get us banned from YouTube, those kind of, segments.
Yeah, that's grounds for demonetization.
That's grounds for monetization in some worlds.
You visit some strange websites, Jamie Lowell.
So that was cool to talk to Scott Roberts today. A lot of interesting stuff from legal perspective and his understanding of how things are playing out and what's going on. And
Jamie, the analysis that he gave about the city of Detroit and how that proves the point that you and I and others have been saying all along, that this was never an opt-out in the first place.
Just
to use the city of Detroit example to put the final stamp on, this is a done decision. It's finito. No more conversation. Detroit tried it and they said no. So to me, that's vindicating. I'm glad to hear that.
It was a misfire, and it's still a little confusing, but yeah, we had to roll with it because that's what happened, like many things.
Well, and of course, we see a lot of communities in that interim time after the legalization law was passed in 2018, but before it really hit that deadline of December, where there were just a big rush for local communities to go through and say no, 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 instigated by Michigan State Police and Scott Greeley and some of the other anti-forces out in Michigan. But I mean, that's what most communities did. They successfully brainwashed people to believe that was the right interpretation of law. When clearly, when the push comes to shove, you can't spontaneously just burst a business into existence in the middle of a town. You just can't. It was never a reality.
No. You have to, as Scott pointed out, you have to get confirmation that you're adhering to the ordinance. And if there's no ordinance to adhere to, then you've got nothing to open up to. So it was a weird interpretation, but whatever. We used to say too that first time there's a challenge, we'll know, and turns out we were right.
Well, being right may sound good on a podcast, but the reality is there were a lot of communities that probably put people through unnecessary grief, that maybe squashed people's dreams. Maybe someone invested their life savings into something and then it came to nothing because someone from Lansing told them this is how it's supposed to be, and it wasn't true. So this is always the consequence of poor legal interpretation on the part of administration.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to say something earlier about that like the people that are involved in the industry, from the cultivation to the production, are kind of like tired of putting their necks out on the line, and they're tired of jumping through hoops, and they've jumped through so many hoops already, hoping that was the bar or that was what they were supposed to do. And they're tired of running in the rat race. So regardless of what's available, I mean, if people aren't open to it, what difference does it make? I think somebody does have to take that initial leap and make good on this whole micro business consumption lounge deal for people to want to invest and believe that they can do it too.
Yeah. Yep. There are a lot of opportunities that we just need one to go first, right?
Yeah, that's the thing is we thought really that caregivers were going to flip into this micro business thing, but like Roach is saying, it could go either way. So why would you flip? You're doing something successfully. Why would you fuck with it and then have to pay for a huge license on top of that? So people are very apprehensive. They don't know what would happen. You don't want to lose. You don't want to, end up in a court fight. You certainly don't want to end up arrested.
Some people don't want to fix what ain't broke, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still a decent opportunity, and it's not like the medical program. The license there is really reasonable. The cost is
reasonable. Comparatively, it's reasonable, but I think really for the average guy, it's still funds, especially if you've had some bad luck the last few years.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about this
Yeah.
a lot. There's just no end to the legacy market, whatever you want to call it, the illicit market, black market, legacy market. That's generational. It's just going to be there for a very, very long time. And one of the reasons is because government's been such a bad actor in this industry.
Yeah.
They've told us lies for so many times. People just do not believe anything is coming out now. They still believe that if their name is on a list, somebody somewhere is going to use that to hunt them down. In some instances, they may not be wrong. So
Right.
there's a real disincentive for those people to participate in the regulated system, and that may just take a generation to build that trust back up.
Yeah, I mean, who's set up to be the Budweiser of the cannabis world? Who's set up to be the Michelob or the Busch or the Heineken? Like, it's going to be
Yeah,
a
I wish it was
corporation. It's
me.
not going to be somebody who really is producing quality cannabis.
That's true.
And
But
that'll
I
be
mean,
there.
that's not quality beer though either. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Usable and cheap if it's cold enough.
I mean,
Heine? He said Heine. Come on.
sorry
Hey, we
about
are,
your bush latte over there.
We are
I don't drink any of that shit. You know,
I
so
don't drink
I'll
beer
let
at
you
all.
know.
I mean, occasionally at the ballpark or something, but
Not a boozer. Nope.
Not
I
a
love
boozer,
that cognac.
Better like at a bar than like a can or a 30 pack or.
yeah,
Little snifter of cognac in the evening is a beautiful thing, but I just have one. That's
I
all.
wouldn't even say occasionally. I'd say infrequently.
Very precise.
Yes.
non-alcoholic beers.
Jamie, are we wrapping up the last 10 minutes of the show?
Yeah, we should just wrap up now. I mean, 5:45, so we can let her go now. It was pretty good. And then of course Ryan coming on after and
Yeah, it's awesome.
getting his foundation off the ground, which is cool. And we'll keep an eye on that. And it is an honor to be a part of it. And that group I think represents a lot of people beyond that group because we all work with many people who are like-minded and kind of represent each other when we're out educating and trying to get things to happen and stuff like that. So I think he will be successful. And the more the caucus and many other angles we want to take at moving stuff forward, the better. Death by 1,000 cuts. We probably spent a long time not paying attention because we were all excited about, Gretchen and Dana getting in there. And there was some time we probably could have been around to lay some more pressure on strategically about stuff. I don't know. But
it's easy to second guess, though, Jamie. I mean,
Yep.
we've all been putting our efforts towards making people's lives better, whether on an individual one-on-one basis or whether trying to make things better on a statewide basis. So, it's impossible to keep your eye on all prizes at all the time. But when something like this comes up, and when I say like this, I mean Michael Thompson. When Michael Thompson comes up, and you can say, "Wow, we missed it," or "Wow, we weren't paying attention," but now that we know. Let's do something. And the people who really matter are the ones that are suiting up for that battle. There are people that'll just talk, and then there are people that'll actually put their sweat and tears and make the phone ring in order to try and rattle some doors, see if we can't get this done. Ryan's rattling doors, man.
And I know some people don't know, but that list is that connected. I mean, there will be the ability to have the conversation in a meaningful way.
The advisory panel for the Redemption Cannabis.
Yeah. Whether or not that equals exactly what we want, we have no idea. But I mean, we have the ability to be heard, and that's really important.
Oftentimes, the difference between making a good decision and a bad decision is one conversation you had with somebody. And as a governor, if you're not having that one extra conversation with somebody who's not in the pocket of business, who's just representing the street view of what's going on in the cannabis industry, if you miss that perspective, you might make decisions that are really stilted and skewed in one direction or the other. So having that access really benefits the entire state.
Hey, Roach, it was cool that you joined us today, man. It's been a couple of weeks since you made it on. We've been enjoying coming on Medical Mondays, Monday nights at 9 on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
And,
yeah, man. Thanks for having me, man. I try to make it, and I just get busy being a dad. Like right now, you don't know what's going on before me.
You've been hiding in the back seat of your car, I can see, and I've seen you roll down the window every once in a while to talk to people out there. So I'm sure you're saying, "Please stop beating your brother," stuff like that.
Oh yeah, no, man. I it's girl on girl violence over here, man. It's crazy.
It works. It's Deb.
Yeah. Either way, man, you guys are the best. I really hope the best for Michael Thompson, man. Like last night we talked about him on Medical Mondays, and you know, I wish they would let them out, but I fear that they won't. You know, like their pride is at stake. They don't want to take. They're not willing to swallow that pill because I mean it kind of, you know, to release Michael Thompson would be in a way admitting to systematic racism, and America's not ready for that.
I think we are. I think I'm hopeful. I mean, at
Yeah,
least we
no,
have a-
like I want to see it, man. But let's see.
Yep.
Fingers
And-
crossed. Let's hope it happens.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of problems that they have to resolve on the governor's level in order to get this done with the parole board and kicking them in the ass and getting them to do it. But we've got a lot of heat on them. We can't let up. We got to make sure we keep the heat up until they're done, until we get what we want.
Well, regardless of whether or not we should have been keeping an eye on it earlier, there are some things happening, and that's becoming more widespread. So I think it'll work in our favor overall. Deb, it's really cool that you made it back and that you are on the mend.
Intact.
And
Return of Deborah. Yeah.
Intact. Yeah. Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah, I'm glad.
It was not fun.
Well,
But I'm
yeah,
still here.
well, you got social hour again, social 2 hours again every week.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
Oh, well, good.
Yep.
the show felt more natural,
hmm
so
Yeah.
it should be.
We'd all
So-
like to sign that cast, but we can't.
I know it's not a sign, kind of cast, but I guess you probably could. But then I shouldn't have took the blue. I should have gone with like yellow or something, right?
Yellow or orange or something.
Silver
or orange
mark,
something.
silver sharpie
Oh.
would work.
Oh,
Silver
wow.
Make it look like a Lions cast. Yeah.
This thing is
And
so
the
gross.
promotion of social distancing.
Pistons cast with red.
There we
The
go.
promotion of
Oh, that
social
turquoise, yeah.
distancing.
Well, they
instead
said
of
what color?
signing.
What
Yeah,
color do
you have to have a
want?
really long pen. That's right. To be able to,
I just send you a Medical Monday sticker, and you can just slap.
yeah,
Oh, that's sweet.
that's the answer.
For real.
For
And
sure.
Deb,
I need
you can
one
just
for the
write
top
our
and the
own.
bottom.
You can write our names on the cast as if we were there. Use bad penmanship, fine, so it looks
That's the
authentic.
same. That's exactly the same thing, Rick.
Sign
I
me
write all
as
your names on
murder.
there, right? To
Excellent.
sign you. Oh, for sure.
Mhm. Yep, and it won't look weird, and it won't feel odd to you either. Good.
Wow.
All right.
Course,
Hey,
go ahead,
August
Rick.
August 28th, the Michigan Cannabis Caucus is going to have a live broadcast with Dana Nessel, and that'll be Facebook Live. We'll be able to submit questions in advance that we can ask the Attorney General, specifically Michael Thompson related, other things too, expungement, some of the other things too. Many people in the community have had questions, and this is an opportunity to dialogue directly or semi-directly.
Mhm.
So, Colin, anything coming up with DNA?
Not right now. I don't think.
Just
We're just kind of regrouping right at this moment.
chilling.
We're
Just chilling.
waiting
Just
for
had a
that
good event, yeah.
announcement to bring it up, I guess.
Wow.
There you go. Well, anyway, Colin, normally if we were in the studio, would be running the boards, but he didn't have to do anything this time, but just directly participate.
I admitted everyone in, and
That's true.
I made sure there wasn't an echo sometimes too.
Well,
So-
good job, Colin.
Well,
Yeah,
it went off without a hitch, and you were the host. So you still
Well,
get
there
credit.
was some anxiety at the beginning, and then we had the Rick snafu.
That was my own fault. That has nothing to do with Colin.
got-
That was
And we
me.
got through it all, and,
Yeah.
and Roach knows exactly what that's all about.
I had some issues over here, man. I don't think anybody noticed, but like I had a phone call that totally kicked me off of Zoom. But I came
let
back.
it back in. I mean,
I saw you.
The murder, the gatekeeper,
you.
see murder.
It was smooth. Another smooth show. So appreciate it. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody's involvement again today. It was cool, and look forward to next week. Jazz Cabbage Cafe. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good day.